Hello class, this is me, Mr. C, and today we are going to be doing a landscape. So let's begin. To me, in this image, what's the most interesting thing is this big dead tree. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to get a little bit of black. I have my water. Get a little bit of black. I'm not going to get too much. I'm just going to make this very big dead tree. And again, this is a wash. I don't want this to be too important just yet, but let's get this down first. Another thing we can do, just to kind of not forget, is remember it's casting this shadow. So let's put this in there. I'll let that dry. In the background is this really interesting orange clay. Now, the nice thing about watercolor is this will dry very quickly. So I'm gonna make a line right here because that's where the clay starts. Okay, and really all I'm gonna do is, because this should be already dry, I'm just gonna make several washes across to the other side. And there's this kind of this hill right about here. Again, this is a very quick process. I'm not trying to waste too much time on this. The beautiful thing about this drawing too is, I don't know where this at. I think this is at Yellowstone National Park, and the only reason I say that is because when I was younger, I went there, and I believe I saw this too. So right here, the sky is extremely blue. And again, remember, the more water you have, right, the lighter your color is going to be. Right now, I'm not using that much water, okay, but I'm using enough. If I was using more, this would be a very light baby blue. So I'm not using too much. The interesting thing about this particular image is right in the corner, it's extremely blue, so I'm gonna use less water. Put that down. At this point, what I would advise you to do is to wash your brush, right? Get your brush, get a little wet, clean it off a little bit. Around this tree is this really nice indication of soil. So, in a very rhythmic motion, I'm going to put some of that soil all around. All right? I'm not going to add too much water on this one because I want to put a little bit of that soil. Okay. If you look in this picture, the one that I'm looking at right now, in the background, you can see another tree just kind of popping out there. I'm not going to use too much water, maybe just a little bit, but I definitely want to put that tree back there too. So, and in the distance, there's even a tree right here on the horizon. Again, I'm going to let that sit for a little bit. Now, the interesting thing about this tree too is, even though it is dead, right? And I believe this is a salt mine or something like that. Even though this tree is dead, it still has a lot of character. So I want to make sure that I put some of that character on here. Again, I'm not using too much water with this. And again, you want to see that root here at the bottom as well. So I'm not using too much water. I'm kind of a tree like that. Okay. Okay, so another thing I want to do too is I want to make sure that these trees also have the same level of depth as that one does. So I'm going to put a little shadow right here. Another thing that I saw in regards of this tree in particular is it had a little bit of red in it. Now I don't know if that was from the sun particularly, but I'm gonna put a little bit of red in my tree as well. You always try to stay a little bit true to that image. Okay. Now again, the tree is the focus, so I'm not going to focus on this just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more orange to give this horizon a little bit more depth. Now, a little bit of water, I'm talking a small dab of water, just to blend. There's a really nice thing that happens when you start blending colors, and eventually we're going to do more of this when we start painting faces and things like that. But right now, we're just practicing, okay? Okay. And again, I'm going to add a little bit more depth over here as well. Okay. So this is really just a practice of technique. I picked a relatively simple image because I didn't want you guys to worry too much about what we were doing and how we were doing it. This is something that everyone can do, and that's why I picked it. So I'm going to use a little bit more orange to kind of drive that home a little bit. I'm going to clean my brush. All right, I'm going to come back. I'm going to add a little bit more blue right here. Okay. A little bit of a blue wash right here too. Okay. So, in my final moments of this drawing, because again, I don't want to work too much, I'm going to go back to my black. I'm going to add extremely fine details. Give you a little more detail with that shadow. Okay. Okay. A little more detail into that shadow. Okay, great. I want to add a little bit of brown to this side just because I think it'd be a little interesting to kind of break that shadow and that tree from each other. Another thing I want to do is add a little bit of that brown around this tree a little bit. Okay. Okay. Again, I'm just going to be very, very experimental with my movement. And my last thing that I want to do is I want to add a little bit more red to this tree. Okay.